Thank you for joining the webinar. This is our second webinar in the Intelligence Operations series. My name is Laura Krennick, and I'm on the intelligence team here at Esri. Your presenters today are Wendy Creighton and James Jones. In today's webinar, we'll discuss the ways Esri's capabilities can be used in a disconnected, intermittent, and limited bandwidth environment. I now turn over the webinar to Wendy.
Thanks, Laura. The demand for relevant, timely information is critical at all echelons of command. On-premise configurations and environmental influences can impact the performance of networks, resulting in significant connectivity challenges. Today, we will discuss Esri's capabilities working within a disconnected, intermittent, low bandwidth environment. We will show you how to provision data from your ArcGIS Enterprise to your desktop and mobile devices, navigate and collect relevant information in the field, and sync your observations across the ArcGIS Enterprise once connectivity is reestablished, all for improved collaboration and decision-making. My name is Wendy Creighton, and I'm an intelligence specialist here at Esri. I have 20 years experience working with defense and intelligence organizations, focusing on security and intelligence operations. Providing our technology expertise and demonstrations today is James Jones. James, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm James Jones. I'm a solution engineer with Esri, working primarily with defense customers, and look forward to working with you all today.
Thanks, James. I'd like to start our discussion today by defining what we mean when we say a disconnected, intermittent, low bandwidth environment. The first scenario is a case where you may run ArcGIS Enterprise or Portal in an on-premise network with no access to www internet resources. In this environment, users cannot access ArcGIS Online Help, Basemaps, or other www online services, such as World Geocoder, Geo-Enrichment Services, or ArcGIS API for JavaScript Web Optimizer. Similar to the on-premise environment is one where users may be in a temporary deployment location. They may have set up a local area network. Again, they would not have access to any of the www internet resources. Additionally, due to location or environmental conditions, they may also be working with intermittent or low bandwidth between them, making file sharing cumbersome. Another common working environment is one where users work on a standalone desktop to create maps, analysis, or other products. Workstations may include ArcGIS Pro, Insights, and ArcGIS Earth. These users may work completely disconnected, then return to the enterprise environment to sync their work. Lastly, we have an environment of mobile devices and apps for field collection and navigation. These users download maps, plans, and forms using apps such as Navigator or Survey123. They work disconnected on mobile devices, and once work is complete, they can return to the enterprise to sync their work. Disconnected environments create unique challenges for users that need to be addressed in order to take full advantage of your ArcGIS software. We have divided users into 3 groups. Each interacts with data in these environments. They each have a different perspective to working with data and different tasks or objectives. Let's start at the top with our first group of users, planning and operations personnel. This group wants to be able to manipulate and visualize data for situational awareness and decision making. This could be a strategic command or tactical operations center working in an on-premise environment or a LAN. These users also need to provision this information and disseminate to troops in the field for action or collection of additional information, usually through a mobile device. Field users want a simple, portable interface to view and/or collect information. Traditional paper workflows don't provide dynamic visualization of data and take large amounts of time and manual effort to collate and integrate for use on an analyst's workstation. By using apps for editing data, then syncing the data once connectivity is reestablished, users are able to provide more timely, relevant information for further analysis. Analysts need robust tools to integrate data from multiple sources to create intelligence and decision support products. Analysts may work on standalone workstations or be connected through enterprise or the LAN. Intelligence and decision support products need to be shared with planning and operations personnel across the enterprise. By providing properly configured tools to work in our users' environments, we enable our users to succeed. GIS supports the planning and execution of multiple missions through sharing of information, collaboration, and decisive action. ArcGIS integrates people, technology, and processes to support multiple missions across all levels of command, all integrated, all working off the same map. Let's dive into the first steps of our enterprise deployment for on-premise and low bandwidth environments. We are going to walk you through the steps needed to configure ArcGIS to work in these environments. It might seem like a lot of work at first, but it will save you time in the end, reduce manual and repetitive updates to your data, and most important, you will get the most out of your investment in the ArcGIS platform. I'm going to turn it over to James, who's going to walk you through these steps needed for downloading your software, data products, and configuring licensing. James?
All right, thank you, Wendy. So the first thing we want to do is we want to obviously go out and get our software. So we do have a few places where we can do that. Well, the first and obvious most recommended place is obviously go to my Esri. You can go to download everything that you need to do. And you're going to want to obtain a few of the following pieces of software. You're going to want to get ArcGIS Enterprise, ArcGIS Pro. You'll probably want to get the License Manager as well. Also the JavaScript API, if you're going to be working with custom applications or anything else like that. If you have anything custom that you're using on the field that relies upon the JavaScript API, you're going to want to bring that with you as well. And then some other things that might be of interest to you is ArcGIS Maps for Office, if you're interested in using those as well. And you can also download a subset of the Living Atlas content. That could be boundary and demographic content. You can publish that to your portal as a hosted feature layer. And serve that out so you still have some of the items that you're used to working with from ArcGIS Online or from the open internet, have that available for you to use as you need to. Once you have all that downloaded, next thing you want to do is download all the necessary license files that are going to be required for authorization. And that's going to be pretty much dependent upon what software that you have downloaded. So ArcGIS Enterprise, you're going to want to make sure that you grab the server license and the portal license. ArcGIS Pro, you want to, depends on how you want to license that, but you do have options that can be handled through my Esri as well. Some other things that you might want to consider doing is going to esri.github.io and checking out some of the open source solutions that we offer there. That can be things like our AGO Assistant or our solutions to your processing toolbox. All right, so let's go ahead and start with ArcGIS Enterprise. So what is ArcGIS Enterprise? Whenever we're talking about ArcGIS Enterprise, we're typically talking about the base deployment, and the base deployment consists of 4 distinct items. That's going to be Portal for ArcGIS, ArcGIS Server, ArcGIS Web Adapter, and ArcGIS Data Store. There are other server roles that you can implement, but they are completely optional. These include things like Image Server, GeoEvent Server, GeoAnalytics Server, and these add additional capabilities that are more specific to specific types of functions and roles that you need to specifically do. Once you really have your ArcGIS Enterprise base deployment configured, you can move on to adding additional server sites. If you're having a multi-server deployment, you can go ahead and establish that. Or if you're having a kind of a normal base deployment, which is everything loaded on one machine, you can do that as well. Now, there are some optional installed components that we want to talk about here. So whenever you're working with ArcGIS Enterprise in a disconnected environment, you need to kind of really ensure that you have all the necessary items to kind of keep people informed, keep people operating in the way that they would in a connected environment. So some of these items that you might want to kind of take a look at and consider are operations dashboard. So this is going to be important if you need to exercise some measure of command and control using your local data. Something else, the ArcGIS API for JavaScript. If you have any custom applications that were developed using the API in a connected environment, you're going to want to make sure that you bring a version of the API, which you can establish and set with your ArcGIS Enterprise. Establish that. Some other items that you want to take a look at, ArcGIS Earth, which is a lightweight global scene viewer that can support nearly the full range of the ArcGIS platform. Insights for ArcGIS, which is an exploratory spatial data analysis tool that allows you to investigate your data kind of in that non-traditional way for a GIS analyst or somebody who traditionally operates through a map. Some other items you want to consider are Collector and Navigator. Those are going to be our mobile applications. Navigator is an app that allows you to use standard and custom road networks that you can upload to your device itself and navigate to a site. And then with Collector, you can collect all the necessary information, update, edit, and then push that back into your enterprise. So whenever we're licensing our disconnected portal, the first thing we want to do is we want to copy or export the authorization file that we have generated from our ArcGIS software authorization wizard onto portable media. Once that is done, we're going to want to use a computer that is connected to the internet to browse the file and upload it, do the necessary authorization that way. And then it's going to output a specific file that we can then download onto portable media again. Once we have that done, we can copy that new file back to our disconnected environment and then proceed to license it like we normally would. So there is more information located in the help documentation if you need more information about that specific process. All right, so whenever we're talking about licensing inside of our disconnected portal, we have a few different options. So the first option is we can license it directly inside of our portal, and we can actually import license entitlements directly into our portal. We can also manage our licenses directly inside the portal, so we can disseminate these out to various different users. We can assign users licenses, and that's if we have the license manager associated with our portal itself. We can use these with named user licenses, which we'll talk about in just a little bit more. And then finally, if it's an application like Insights or even Operations Dashboard, as soon as the user has access to it, the applications window up at the top of your portal will become available to drop down, select, and you start actually being able to use it. So if you're a user of ArcGIS Pro and taking offline is necessary for your work, remember that you'll only be able to launch ArcGIS Pro from the machine that you use to specifically take the license offline. So in other words, once you download that license to your actual desktop, you cannot launch another instance of ArcGIS Pro using that name user on a different machine because it's going to be tied to that separate machine. But you can check your ArcGIS Pro licenses back in as soon as you have internet access again. So as soon as you connect back in, you can check it back in. It's a very quick and simple process. But one thing of note is you will have to check it back in from the machine that you specifically used to check it out. So one thing you can do to kind of really help with this is you can use an alias for your machine, which I'll show you how to create that here in a minute, for your actual portal or for your Pro version, so you know which machine that you have your license associated with. So if you go back through and you can't remember exactly which one you have it associated with, you can give it that alias, look for that alias in your whatever ones you're using Pro, check it back in, and get on with your day. Something else that is necessary in a disconnected environment is the continued use of Basemaps. So the first thing we want to do whenever we are using custom Basemaps is we typically going to be using it from some sort of cached map service. So we want to first to make that cached map service available inside of the portal. You can just add it up as, or add it just like any other layer into the portal. You know, you go through, you publish it out, more than likely from ArcGIS Pro. You can publish it out and you can reference its location on disk as long as that location is a registered data store associated with your ArcGIS portal. So then what we're going to want to do is we're going to then go through and take that tile pack or that tile layer, and then we're going to want to create a web map from that. So we're going to create a web map, move that tile layer into the base maps portion of that, remove the previous base map, and then we're going to want to save that out. Then the next thing we're going to want to do is we can either use an existing group or we can create a new group for our base maps and title it something simple like base maps or something along those lines. And then share that web map to the base maps group, make sure that it's shared with everyone. And then we can go through into the settings of the portal and specify that group, that base map group that we have just either created or used as where our base maps are coming from. So then that'll be able to launch it and be able to go forth and use that. So one thing of note, Esri does offer its commercial data appliance, which offers all the ArcGIS Online base map capabilities. So all the base maps that you're used to using and seeing with ArcGIS Online, you can get those through the commercial data appliance. Use that, and then you'll be able to kind of take the ArcGIS Online base maps with you pretty much wherever you go. So with that, let's go ahead and take a quick look at some of the things that I talked about here recently. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is licensing a program like ArcGIS Pro, GeoNet, or even Insights through our portal. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you want to go to the machine where you have your license server actually installed. So you're going to need to have permissions to that actual server to be able to open up the license server. And then whenever you need to find it, just go to your start menu, type in license server, and then this screen will show up. Once that's done, we have a few different options of how we can do this. So in this case, both ArcGIS Pro and GeoNet use license type called named user. So we just want to go to the version, drop it down, select named user, hit authorize now. That'll take us through the software authorization process. Once we get those loaded into our license server, we can then go ahead and generate a portal configuration file. And what this does is it actually generates a JSON file that we can then take and upload to our portal. And our portal does require the entitlements that are being imported into it to come in this JSON format, and it does have to come out of this license server administrator. All right, so once you have that done, you want to go ahead and copy that JSON file off to where your portal can access it. And then we're going to want to go to our organization. We want to go to manage licenses. And then we want to go to import. And then whatever file we happen to copy down, in this case, I'll bring down my GeoNet and my Pro licenses that I've already imported into my license server administrator. Select that, and it's just as simple as hitting import. And now we have our ArcGIS Pro. We brought in 5 licenses for ArcGIS Pro, and we also brought in 5 licenses for GeoNet. For Insights, Insights will actually only give you a JSON file since it is a portal application. So you're only going to get the JSON file. So that actually, the process for licensing Insights is very similar to this, the second half. You just don't have to do the first part, which is going to the license server administrator, loading that up and doing everything else that way. So for Insights, you just go to import, go to our file, find our JSON file for Insights. In this case, it's an Insights with 5 licenses. Open that up and import. And okay, and now we have Insights licenses available for dissemination. All right, so let's go ahead and work on creating a base map. So in this case, I've already got a group created called Basemaps. Right now it has one item in it, which is our dark gray canvas map. Now, if I wanted to create a new base map, first thing I'd have to do is I would have to first identify my tile layer. In this case, I've already registered this item with my portal, so I've already shared it up to ArcGIS Enterprise from ArcGIS Pro. And I want to take this imagery layer, which is a tile layer, and I want to share this out as a base map. So only thing I have to do is navigate to where that item is, open in my map viewer. And as you notice, it comes in just as a regular layer. So if we wanted to take this and turn it into a base map, what we can then do is click on these three little dots right down here at the more options, and then go to move to base map. And now we have two items inside of our base map. We have the imagery and the dark gray canvas. I couldn't remove the dark gray canvas before because we have to have an item inside of our base maps group. But now that I have two items in there, I can go ahead and remove my dark gray canvas item from the base maps. And it's just as simple as, yet again, clicking on the three dots right beneath it, the more options, and remove. And now the only thing I have in there is my imagery layer. Now, we want to go ahead and update this layer name since it doesn't make sense to have our imagery layer being labeled dark gray canvas. So we just click on the more options again, hit rename, and just give it a name of, just say imagery, and okay. Now we want to go ahead and save this web map. So we're just going to go ahead and save it, give it a name. Let's just go ahead and call it imagery. Go ahead and give it tags. Just call it base map. And then just give it a quick description. Hit save. And now we have a web map with our tile layer added in it. Now we can go ahead and share this with my base maps group, and also want to go ahead and share it with everyone as well, so it can be used as a base map by the default organization. One thing it's going to do is it's going to ask me to go ahead and update the sharing on the layer that is associated with it. So in order to use this as a base map, I'm going to have to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit update sharing. And now I just hit done. And now I can actually go back into my content just to make sure that my web map has saved out. It has, everything's fine, everything's good. So now let's go back to my groups real quick. And now I have two items in there. I have my imagery web map and my dark gray canvas. And now I want to take this and I actually want to share it out as my base maps group. So real quick, if I go back to my map, and if I do my base maps drop down right now, oh, looks like I forgot to change that. It will recognize that group. But if you want to actually see how that's done, we can actually go in here to edit settings, go down here to map, and we can select our group and which one we want to have set as our group where our base maps are coming from. It can be set to any group. In this case, it's going to be set to my base maps. You can sort it by different ways. You can sort it by title. You can sort it ascending, descending, and you can even set a default base map. If I wanted to change my default base map to the imagery one, I can go ahead and do that. And I can use the map extend as default. And then I just go ahead and hit save. And then I can go back to my content and say if I wanted to create a new map, I just go here, create new map. Just give this a quick name. Hit OK. And it's going to come in and it's going to go ahead and create my new web map with my default base map, which is the imagery layer. All right, so some other things that we are going to want to take a look at for our ArcGIS Enterprise situation in this disconnected environment is editing the settings for some of our utility services. So for that, we're going to go back to our organization, edit settings, and then we'll want to go take a look in this utility services item. One thing that is always of interest is always going to be the print services. You're always going to want to take a look at those. So you can print out your web maps, do everything else. Your geometry services, if you're going to be adding items like CSVs or anything else, you're going to need to have a local geometry server or service to be able to kind of make sure that the correct geometries are being created and everything else like that. And then we also have other types. We have hydrology if you're needing to do hydrology services. If you're same thing with elevation. Cached elevation image services are vital if you're going to be using 3D. So if you want to use the scene view or if you want to use ArcGIS Globe, you have to have some sort of cached elevation and image service. And you can just go in here and add it as add that as an item. Same thing, you can even add in custom geocoders. So if you have the Esri Roll Geocoder appliance, you can reference that as well. Or you can create your own custom geocoder, use that, not an issue. Same thing with routing services. If you have a good network routing service, you can reference that. Or if you're using StreetMap Premium, you can go ahead and set that right here as well. All right, so let's talk about some of the advanced portal configure operations options that you might have as well. So I've kind of already briefly talked about some of these on-premises utility services. Print services, obviously very useful, especially if you're going to need to be having, need to disseminate any sort of paper products or anything else along those lines. Geometry services, pretty self-explanatory. If you're feeling up to it, a lot of those analysis utility services, hydrology, elevation, network, all those, you can enable those as well. Just really depends upon what is needed in your disconnected environment. So the big thing to keep in mind whenever you're working in these kind of disconnected, intermittent, and limited bandwidth environments is, doing what's necessary versus kind of having everything that you need to. So kind of what's essential for your mission. And what is essential to make sure that you can accomplish your goal. If you want to establish a default elevation service and portal, so if you do have a need to do 3D, you can go through and set this through that utility settings option, and it does need to be in that LERC format. So it needs to be published as an image service from ArcMap that does contain elevation data. It does need to be in that LERC format. And yet again, it's much like the process of sharing out a Basemap. So you want to go through, add the image service to your portal as a new item, make sure it's shared with everyone. And then once you have that service shared out as an image service, you can configure your portal to use the new default elevation service. So it's yet again, it's underneath that utility services tab. Insights. Insights is a application that really allows you to analyze your data kind of in a different way, allows you to explore it, do exploratory spatial data analysis. And it's a very handy tool, very useful, very powerful. One thing to note about this, it does require ArcGIS Enterprise 10.5 or higher. So 10.5, 10.51, or 10.6. And you will want to install this actually on the portal for ArcGIS machine. So if you have a multiple server site, so if you're federating out everything, you have multiple servers communicating back and forth, insights will need to be on the machine that portal for ArcGIS is running on, because it is a portal application. Then from there, you're going to want to go through and install the license files. I briefly showed you how to do that earlier. And then from there, whenever you want to assign a user a license, you can go through there and then you can provision that license out through portal as well. And once they have a license assigned to them, it will become available in their applications drop down at the top of the portal. All right, so operations dashboard. Many organizations really need to kind of keep their on-site leaders informed, even in disconnected environments. So Operations Dashboard is an excellent tool that really helps you do this. So in order to do this, kind of need to follow the following steps. First, to kind of prepare, you need to first download and extract the deployment utility from Esri. So like always, then you need to make sure you have your security certificate ready and enabled. So you make sure, because it is going to require a secure communication between itself and the portal. You're going to have to know your portal URL, and then finally you're going to have write access into your portal C drive. So it's going to be very specifically a specific folder in there. So in order to kind of get this up and going, the first thing you want to do is run the deployment utility on the machine that your portal is installed in again. And then finally, in order to kind of deploy to that portal, you're going to have to copy an output folder from the deployment utility to the apps dashboard -win folder, which is going to be located in the ArcGIS install or ArcGIS portal install directory on your local machine. And then you're going to create an application item of Operations Dashboard. So it'll walk you through that step. It's all located within kind of the installation wizard for that. And then finally, you're going to share that with everyone as well. So a few other things to keep in mind is if you go into ArcGIS Enterprise and go to the portal, start exploring out, you'll notice that it has a lot of items from a lot of the different service languages that Esri supports. So you'll see stuff in pretty much almost every service language that Esri does support. And if you want to kind of disable that and really only enable the content that is local to your portal, you can do that, but that requires access through the portal administrator directory. You're going to go through that. You're going to go into the system, content configuration, go to update, set that to false, and all those items will then no longer be displayed. Now, of note, it should, this will not impact items coming from ArcGIS Online. So if you're pulling utility services from ArcGIS Online, or if you're pulling in Living Atlas content, that will not impact that at all. This is just a lot of the kind of extra material that is included with ArcGIS Enterprise. So you can disable that. All right, some other things that you can work with and expand is the config.js file. So this is one of the JavaScript files that really kind of controls a lot about the portal itself. So this is going to be located in your portal install directory at this link or at this location right here. And there is a lot more information detailed in the portal administrator help if you really want to do this. But what this does do is allows you to kind of provide some additional configurations to the portal UI. So if you want to add kind of a custom background, some custom layouts or anything else along those lines, you can do that from here. Of note, if you're using this, it does require a restart of the portal and clearing of the web browser if you make any changes. So if you've added in a background image and it's not showing up for you, go through, clear out your web cache or clear out your cache from your web browser. Make sure your portal has been restarted, go back in, take a look, and it should be there. As kind of a best practice on this one, before you make any edits, it's always a good idea to make a backup, just in case something happens. It always happens to everyone. So it's always a good idea to make a backup so you have a second copy just in case some minor mistake gets made, some setting didn't take all the way. You have that backup, you can copy back in there, and everything's still working A-okay. Some of the more common and more popular items that exist out there that users typically like to enable or disable. So the ability to search ArcGIS Online, you can go ahead and either set that to enabled or disabled. And that way, so if you're in a truly disconnected environment, it's not even an option. You can add security classification banners. So if you need to add in those security classifications, you can do that. Same thing with footer links and a few of those other items. So if you want to disable the social media links, you can do that as well. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the standalone desktop. So we talked a lot about Enterprise. Let's talk a little bit more about desktop and more specifically Pro. So whenever we're talking about this, so we're going to be talking about how the Intel Analyst supports operations. You know, everywhere you have operations, you have Intel Analysts, and they're supporting all levels of operations, everything from strategic to kind of that big picture, high level view, going all the way down into the tactical view of, you know, supporting the day-to-day operations of really kind of doing the groundwork to make sure that change is being enacted and progress is being made in whatever theater that you're supporting. So at all levels, the basic analytical process typically remains the same. And it really, the only real difference is, you know, the scale of what is being supported and how it's being kind of viewed. And really kind of one last thing about this, intelligence activities are really conducted at all levels. So they're conducted at the tactical level. The focus might be a little bit different than the focus at the strategic level. But, you know, it's always being done either conflict, peacetime, in the transition areas. You got to make sure that you're well informed and you know exactly what's kind of going on in your AO. So one item that we have kind of created to kind of help support this is what's referred to as the intelligence configuration for ArcGIS Pro, or ICAP for short. This is a new kind of configuration that's coming out of our solutions team. It takes ArcGIS Pro and it really enables it for, or really kind of streamlines it for kind of your military intelligence professional. It does add a few capabilities. It adds like some stuff like the link charting capability, adds alerting capabilities, the ability to do bulk import of multiple different file types, in really kind of brings to the forefront a lot of the tools that your military intelligence professional will use on a more regular basis. So whenever you're using ArcGIS Pro in this kind of disconnected environment, there's a few things to kind of keep in mind. On your portals tab, you want to make sure that you have your local portal connected. If you have that, if you're referencing the portal that you established in the previous set, make sure that's there. Another good idea might be to remove some of the other portals that are relying upon a connected connection. And that might be because ArcGIS Pro might still try and reach out to those to just kind of establish some sort of trust with those. You can turn those off, remove those. Same thing with ArcGIS.com. So you can go ahead and remove that one as well if you're in a truly disconnected environment. Really helps with performance on that one. If you're using a named user license, you can go ahead and check out that license to your local machine. Don't forget to make sure you give it a good alias whenever you do that, so you know where you checked it out to. Of note, please remember to check it in whenever you get back. Just your portal administrator will thank you. All right, so ArcGIS Earth. ArcGIS Earth really kind of, let's go ahead. ArcGIS Earth can work in this kind of disconnected environment. Sometimes you will have access into your portal. Sometimes you won't. So sometimes you're going to be needing to use a local file or something along those lines that can be supported. But it does work a lot better whenever you have that connection to ArcGIS portal. So whenever working with ArcGIS Earth, you do have a drop-down menu up at the top right that will show you if you're connected into your portal or not. So it does give you the portal, another portal manager, very similar to ArcGIS Pro. You can connect in your add that portal connection, connect into it, use the full capabilities, search for content, do what you need to do. You can add for content. You can search for content either in the portal. You can add local files, or if you have URLs of other applications, you can add those in there. One good thing about ArcGIS Earth, it does support a wide variety of standard service types, and it does support a wide variety of standard files and file formats. For example, KMLs, KMZs, text CSV files, a whole bunch of different variety of raster files. So DTED, TIFF, image, or .imgs, JPEGs, SRTM models, or SRTM, and a wide variety of 3D models. So Collada files, Autodesk files, and just a wide variety of formats on that as well. Sorry, got ahead of my slides a little bit there. So yet again, adding in a local file is just very simple. Just go up here to the top left, click on your plus, the little add data button, which is the big plus, go to add files, and then you can kind of see all the various different types of formats that are available. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at ArcGIS Pro, some of the things that you can do to work with this in this disconnected environment. All right, so here I have my ArcGIS Pro, pretty standard. So one thing to note, so everything I'm going to be talking about is what's located in what's referred to as the backstage area. So you find that underneath the project area. And the first thing talk about is just all your different portal connections. So you can see here I have quite a few different portal connections. I can add a new portal, just got to add in the appropriate URL. So this can either be ArcGIS, this can either be portal for ArcGIS, so coming out of ArcGIS Enterprise, or it can be ArcGIS Online. The symbol does differ based upon which type you are. ArcGIS Enterprise is going to be the purple symbol, while the ArcGIS Online is going to be the blue cloud. For licensing, you can change your license type. You can configure it to either be a named user, single-use license, or if you have a concurrent use license manager, you can connect to that as well. If you are using a named user license, you can go ahead and select this Authorize ArcGIS Pro to work offline, and that will check out a license. It'll ask you to sign in, and once you do, you'll have a local license. And then you can go ahead and give it a good alias. So you can go to edit, give it an alias, a good name. Say if I wanted to change it, just make it a little bit more specific, James's work laptop. Just hit OK, and it gives me an alias that I can that does get associated with my license as well. So a few other items. You can, coming soon, we'll have the ability to download Basemap contents to your local ArcGIS Pro, so you can take those with you. It does have to be enabled on the actual service that you're trying to hit off of, and it'll probably be recommended to not try and download a very large area, try and get it more tailored to your AOR. So if you're going relatively small place, so if you're going to go support say disaster relief operations in the Caribbean, might not be a good idea to download the entire Caribbean. Might be a better idea just download your specific island or something along those lines, because these caches can get very large very quickly. Like the world imagery cache, I believe, is pushing 19, 20 terabytes. So obviously no one has that much space on the laptop, and then obviously you're gonna want to have space for other items as well. So just make sure that you download what's appropriate for whatever your mission is going to be. And with that wraps up my section. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Wendy.
Thanks, James. Let's take a quick look at our last environment, that of the mobile devices and mobile apps. There are a number of apps available by Esri, our partners, and other users. These apps can be used to collect field data, supplement other sources of information for analysis, and be used in intelligence products and reports. Many of these apps are free and available to anyone in an organization to use. It is important to point out that some of these apps are web apps. Others, however, can be configured to be used in disconnected environments. When your users want to work with mobile apps for navigation or field collection, there's an app for that. Download and edit data in Collector for ArcGIS. Navigate offline mobile map packages in Navigator for ArcGIS. Download and view mobile map packages in Explorer for ArcGIS. Download and edit data in ArcGIS Pro, and complete forms and surveys with Survey 123. In general, a typical workflow for mobile devices and apps working disconnected looks something like this. First, you must prepare your data. This includes basemaps and data referenced or copied to the server. Then publish a service. Make sure to enable edit, query, sync, and update. Author your content. Enable offline mode for web maps. Download to the device, where you can then view, query, and edit. Lastly, don't forget to synchronize your changes when you reestablish connectivity. We're not going to spend a lot of time on using apps today. If you would like to learn more, please join us on May 23rd, where we will go into more detail using apps for field collection. You may also be interested in seeing how all of this comes together as we do a deep dive into configuring and using Operations Dashboard for situational awareness. Learn to leverage these capabilities that enable the sharing of information and collaboration between intelligence and operations. Successful military operations depends on accurate, up-to-date field collections and intelligence. By properly configuring ArcGIS resources, you can enable your users to work in an on-premise enterprise or local area network for operations and analysis, a standalone desktop for analysis and field collection, a mobile device for field collection and navigation. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you are interested in joining our defense and intelligence community, you can find us on GeoNet at community.esri.com/groups/defense and intelligence. Here you can ask technical questions, read customer success stories, and user-created story maps, and find additional information on products or solutions. We also offer a series of regional technical exchange meetings. Some of these also offer hands-on exercises and training. Register at go.esri.com/DI series.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Wendy and James. Now we'd like to give you all the opportunity to get your specific questions answered. Please use the questions tab on your right to type in your questions, and we'll answer them here live. I do see one question that's come through already. And let's see, what are some of the apps that cannot be used disconnected? James, could you answer that?
Yep, sure. So some of the big ones that can't work offline are going to be things like, if you're using Community Analyst, not as prevalent, but that one does have a direct dependency to ArcGIS Online. There are some configuration things that you need to do with Survey 123 before you can kind of take it truly disconnected. Workforce is another one that does have some issues. I believe Workforce actually requires it to be kind of still in that connected environment as well. A few of our other applications do work disconnected, but there's a few more steps that are involved with that. So Street Map Premium, Business Analyst, all those other ones. So by and large, a lot of our applications are designed to work offline as well. Some do require some additional steps, but very few things like Community Analyst do not work in that kind of disconnected environment. All right, thank you. Hopefully that answers it.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, James. Okay, I got another question here. It says, you mentioned the next webinar is going to be on Operations Dashboard. What is Operations Dashboard?
Operations Dashboard essentially is an application that allows you to kind of visualize and consolidate a view of a bunch of your different layers that are coming in from wherever you might be going. So this specific dashboard is actually taking in items from workforce, I believe collector, survey 1, 2, 3, and a few other items. And essentially what you can do is it allows you to kind of create tailored views that are designed to provide as much information in a relatively short amount of time as possible. So this one allows us to take a look at how many workers that we have currently working a job, who's working, who's on break, who's currently working. Do we have any drug seizure reports in the area, which we do. In this case, we do have items that allow us to kind of explain what those items are, affiliation, etc. Allows us to kind of view if we have any unassigned tasks, how many tasks were completed, and how many tasks we have in progress. So it's a way of simplifying a view of your data to allow pretty much anyone to kind of understand what's kind of going on. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so we have another question. Is licensing in disconnected portal just accessing our organization's portal via VPN, or is it truly disconnected?
Yeah, can you repeat the question one more time?
Oh, yeah, of course. It says, when we refer to licensing in disconnected portal, just accessing our organization's portal via VPN, or is it truly disconnected?
So you can license it to be completely and totally disconnected, as in doesn't have any connectivity to the outside world at all. And that does kind of require, you know, stepping through and licensing on a connected machine, but then copying the author URL off of that machine that was connected to your disconnected machine, and then referencing that license file. Once that happens, you can be completely disconnected with no internet connectivity, going pretty much anywhere you need to. With the licensing, you can be 100% disconnected, no internet connectivity whatsoever. But yeah, it just requires just that like 1 or 2 extra steps.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much, James. So that concludes our questions and answers section. If you had another question that we didn't get to today, please go ahead and reach out to us. You can either email me directly at lkrenick@esri.com or reach out to anyone on our Esri website. Thank you again to everyone who joined us today, and thank you to Wendy and James for their great presentation. We hope you have a great rest of your day.